What can happen if there's too much conformity in a group? This is one of the things we worry about in communications. We can come up with bad decisions. Just because a group says something is the correct way to do it doesn't mean that the group is right. There can be not enough input, or there can be these other influences I just talked about. Uninformed positions, if the latest information is not brought forward, or if there is too much what we call urban myth abounding, or if people have just strong positions because of ethical or moral positions that they take, that can be not good for the overall churn of good ideas. If we go back in American history, the Bay of Pigs was a bad decision based on a lack of good information and highly emotional decisions by the people involved. The Watergate break-in, one of the classic bad ideas in history. A group of people who were working for the re-election of the president decided, despite the fact that they were way ahead in the polls, that it might be valuable to see what was in the files in the Democratic national offices. So they broke in. They found nothing of value. Nothing would have helped them. In fact, there wasn't anything there. But they did it because they could. We can look at cults, Jonestown, Waco. Those are irrational acts where many people died because they followed leaders who were charismatic, but who tended to eliminate any good thinking or even personal salvation by the followers. Enron, Arthur Anderson, when you go to the business areas, too many people who have been brainwashed or convinced that bad acting were good ideas, not good outcomes. We call this in academia the Abilene paradox, and this is based on a small story that's been concocted, which says that a son-in-law and a daughter were visiting with the daughter's parents in Abilene, Texas, or near Abilene, an hour away. They just said, let's go out to dinner. And everybody said, well, where? And somebody said, well, should we go to Abilene? It was a hot day, it was dusty, no air conditioning in the car. But nobody said, no, that's not a good idea. So everybody piled in, took the long, dusty drive without air conditioning in 100-degree heat to Abilene, where they had a not very good meal. Came back, same conditions, and then when they got back home, they said, why did we do that? Well, turned out that nobody said, wait a minute, let's think this over. Let's see if this really is a good idea. That's what it developed, was what is called groupthink. Nobody says the emperor doesn't have any clothes. So making decisions in organizations is another focus of study, and something that we in communications need to worry about, because one, decisions are often based on information, which is part of our communications process. Secondly, we're usually involved in these decisions, and we want to be able to add key information, and we want to be able to add a different perspective without making the organization very dysfunctional. So decisions sometimes involve multiple activities, many of which overlap and you can lose the original context. We should need to think about who owns information and who is sharing it. As it's often been said, information is power, and if those people who have critical information to a decision are trying to bend the information in a certain way, that can be harmful to the overall organization. How is the information communicated? Is it communicated in ways that most people can accept and most people can understand? This may mean that we have to communicate it in multiple formats. In other words, some people don't use email. It should be then sent in on paper. Some people don't have computers at work. Hard to believe, but if you're working in a factory, you need to communicate in ways other than electronic. Finally, who controls the resources? Who allocates the resources that are going to be used to communicate information? Those are elements that we as decision makers and as communicators need to keep in mind to make sure that decisions are made in the best possible way with the most people having the best information.